Hey, everybody. As promised, we are back with Bob Spirian of MUFON to talk about the UFO festival in Carbondale, Pennsylvania, held recently. And they call it what, Bob? The CarbondALIEN?
Yes, that's the CarbondALIEN UFO Festival.
Like carbon and alien, CarbondALIEN. Okay, very clever. So
Really?
tell us about the festival.
Okay. First, I want to say that the two women that ran it, Nicole and Stephanie, volunteers. They just came up with the idea because they worked with the Art Alliance of Carbondale. They were artists, and they just thought that it would be interesting to have a festival celebrating the 50-year anniversary of this alleged UFO coming down in a small pond near Carbondale. I've been to many UFO festivals. I've spoken at UFO festivals, and I only happened to hear about it by looking at Facebook. So they had an ad for the festival. So I called them up and said, "Hey, if you're going to have a festival with UFOs, you have to have MUFON." And they said, "We'd love to have MUFON." They let me set up a booth, a table. I was giving out pamphlets, getting memberships for people. But out of all of the festivals that I have attended around the country, I was pretty amazed, fascinated, and impressed by this festival because it was their first year out, and they had thousands of people. They had like over 100 tents. They had food trucks. It was so well run that, and it got such an audience that they've decided to make it a 2-day weekend affair next year. That it was everything outdoors in the park in Carbondale along the main street, and also at the Hotel Anthracite, where they had speakers speaking. One of the speakers was Bill Weber, a long, long time Pennsylvania MUFON field investigator, was one of the primary speakers. So I want to give a shout out to people. If next year on the 51st anniversary, if you've got nothing to do around the first week of November when they have it, I would encourage you. It was a lot of fun. Everybody's dressed up like Darth Vader, you name it. But I'd also like to talk about the sighting itself.
Yeah, 50 years ago in Carbondale, Pennsylvania. Yeah.
Now, I had heard about it. All right. I'm originally from Jersey, so it was pretty much more of a local Eastern PA near Scranton, Pennsylvania thing.
Right.
And the story is that an object came down, it was glowing, that they took pictures of it underwater, and I have pictures. I took pictures of the pictures from 1974. Glowing object under the water. And apparently half the town knew that this thing had come down, and over the pond up on a hill was the cemetery. And half the town went to the cemetery this night to watch what they were doing. And a bunch of kids, it was in a park, Russell Park. These kids crawled through a fence, a hole in the fence, and actually saw the object. One kid saw the object on the ground after it had been pulled out of the lake, and he said that it was a silver sphere. It had hundreds of holes with shafts of light shooting out of it. And when you look at the pictures that I'll give you, when it was still underwater, you would have to say that's exactly what the thing probably was. The weirdest thing about this story is that while I was at my MUFON booth at the festival, 7 people came up to me. One of them was the guy that was in the boat that actually retrieved the object. The other 6 were kids that were like 12 to 15 years old that actually crawled through the fence. So I met all of the actual witnesses. And what they said was that one cop actually shot the thing while it was under the water. And his partner, I got this from the former chief of police of Carbondale at Saturday at this festival. His partner says, "What are you doing? Let's say that's a satellite with a nuclear reactor in it. You're shooting it, all right?" So the kids actually saw the object get taken out of the water. Half the town saw the military trucks come in. All right. They put the thing under a tarp and drove away. The one guy who was a kid at the time told me, he goes, "Mr. Spearing, the lead truck said United States Air Force Bureau of UFO Investigations." And I said to myself, why would a guy 50 years later
Make up a story like that. Well, the local newspaper wrote it up, and they didn't have anything that you just told me. It was just they repeated the counter story that it was a railroad lantern thrown into the
Yes.
water by some kid. I mean, it's a completely different take on it. And that's been the alternate story all these years now. So, from what you said, it couldn't possibly be a railroad lantern, an electric one. That's why it didn't go out right away. But who was the kid that came up with that story, or did he? Right. Well, the thing was, the retired Carbondale chief of police at my booth told me that the lantern story was the cover story. After they took it away, they threw a lantern into the lake. They had a scuba diver go in and pull up the thing and say, it's a lantern. They gave me a picture of the lantern also, which I will give you. That was the cover story. And this is from the retired chief of police. So I said to him, do they have the police files? And he said, at the time he was chief of police, they did. But pages and pages and pages of the actual police report are gone today. And how are they gone? He just said that they're no longer in the files because he was a very, very sincere guy. He had an absolute interest in the story. All right. So I don't think he did anything nefarious, but I think somebody took the files. So they quote a kid, and I think they even identify him. So what, they had a kid make up a story for them, and the kid has stuck to it all these years? Yep. Yep. But I had 6 kids who are now adults, and one former police chief come up to me and tell me the official story and actually what they saw. But and I don't think they'd lie. You know, if they were eager to come to me to say, Mr. Spearing, I want to tell you what really happened, I believe those people. So the kid who allegedly threw it into the water, he's still around now, correct? Yes, still around. He wasn't at the festival. I didn't talk to him, but yes, according to the police chief, he was still around. And he's never recanted the story as far as I know. No. So that in itself is pretty interesting. Now, what was the size of this object? A very interesting question. The kid who actually went through the fence with his buddy and actually got close to it, and the cops were surrounding it when it was on the ground, and the cops saw them and chased them away. He said it was bigger than a basketball, silver, with all of the holes with light shooting out of it, while the police were standing right next to it as if they had no fear that it was radioactive or anything. The fellow in the boat, a guy by the name of Jesse, who I met that morning, he actually helped me set up my tent. He said, I don't know if you know it, he goes, but I was the guy in the boat that pulled it out. He goes, that it was 2 pieces. All right. There was the sphere with the shafts of light, but there was a larger piece, and he didn't want to talk about it. So really? Was there 2 objects? Yeah, I had never heard that before either. And he didn't want to talk about it. No, he declined to describe the other thing. What was your sense of why he declined? I think he was a little bit afraid. This is getting more and more interesting. This is stuff that's never been printed up in local or national media. You know, that's why you got to go to UFO festivals and talk to the people who actually saw it. Yeah. Now, that size and that kind of design with holes and all that, it doesn't sound like it would be a inhabited UFO. Maybe some kind of a satellite part or a probe, or what do you think? Well, I always thought it was interesting that the one kid, like, he swore to me that the side of the truck said United States Air Force, the Bureau of UFO Investigations. So I got the report, the feeling that it was something anomalous. Could it have been a satellite? Sure. What happened in Kecksburg, literally, 9 years earlier, was the acorn-shaped object came down. Same MO. Military comes in, throws it on a truck, flaps over it, and half the town sees it drive away. And they claim that that was a Cosmos satellite.
All
Actually,
right.
the configuration kind of matched it, didn't it? The shape of it.
Configuration also matched Die Glock, the Bell, the purported Nazi time machine in
Yeah.
World War II.
Yeah.
So that's very interesting. But if anything, it reminded me the way the kid described it as a drone. All right. And I say that because I was on a train once, probably 2018, and the train was going about 65 miles an hour across the New Jersey Meadowlands towards North New Jersey. Beautiful sky, beautiful blue sky, cloudless. And I just happened to look out the window, and maybe 1,000 feet out, 1,000 feet up was a sphere, and it was just leisurely pacing my train. I mean, there's no way that I could have misinterpreted a regular aircraft. It was that close. It was like this big to me out in the distance. And if you look at the MUFON case management system, or 140,000 case UFO report database, it's astonishing how many people report silver spheres. It's astonishing how many people have actually filmed silver spheres. Some are better quality than others. Sometimes on a bright day, a silver sphere that's being filmed may look like a black ball, but it's actually silver because the sun's behind it. But probably after orbs, silver spheres, then discs, then triangles, cigars, and boomerangs, and now jellyfish are popping up. That's the order that people see things. So after orbs, silver spheres like the one possibly retrieved in Carbondale are among the most ubiquitous, form of UFO that we get in our report database.
And you think that might have been some kind of an alien probe?
Alien, futuristic, from another time period, from another dimension, because I'm seeing a lot of cases lately where the things just appear in people's bedrooms with the windows closed. So you have to say it's not coming from outer space. Maybe it's coming from another time. Maybe it's coming from another dimension. But if it didn't fly in the window, it's not from another planet.
Getting back to the truck that took the object away in Carbondale, did you say people told you it said U.S. Air Force?
Bureau of UFO Investigations. And at the time, 74, Blue Book was over. So allegedly there was nothing in the military program wise that were investigating UFOs.
So, I mean, that would actually say that on the side of a truck if they're trying to keep it secret. Bureau of UFO Investigations.
Blew my mind that this guy told me that. And I'm saying, why would he make that up? And that was the first thought that went through my mind. Why would he make us up a story like that?
Wow. So this is a lot of new information, or at least information that hasn't really been publicized before. So you had quite a interesting.
Well, I'll tell you, I was so impressed by the festival and by the people coming up to me that I already went to MUFON's media department and said, hey, this is worth making a documentary out of. It's like, and then putting out a call to have these people come back next year who were there, who were the witnesses. I'm telling you, it's a pretty extraordinary story.
In fact, maybe we can get a hold of some of them for our podcast and hear what they have to say. So, Bob, thanks very much for a fascinating discussion on CarbondALIEN, the first festival marking the 50th year anniversary. And we'll stay on this story, and we'll continue with Bob Sparian of MUFON. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate it.